Welcome to our 5th grade plays. We have a series of 4 plays that will show some of our history of our great nation. We will begin with explorers who first discovered America. Our first play is titled Age of Discovery. We hope you enjoy our presentation.
Act 1, First Discovery. The year is about 1000 AD. Leif Erikson, a Norse explorer, has traveled to a country called Norway to meet with their king.
Welcome to our country. It is a great honor to have the son of the founder of Greenland in our land.
I appreciate you having me. It has been a long journey.
I hear that you're an excellent explorer. Since you are here, I have something rather important I'd like to talk to you about, if you are open to it.
Go ahead, Your Majesty.
I know that you worship your pagan gods. However, I must share with you information I have learned about this man they call Jesus Christ. He died for our sins, and I believe that he is our Savior.
I've heard of this religion, Christianity, during my travels. Tell me more.
King Olaf ended up converting Erikson to Christianity and asked him to spread the word throughout his travels. Erikson left Norway, but the next part of the story is up for debate. People are unsure, but either through the recommendation of another explorer or by accident, Erikson and his men landed in a strange land before reaching Greenland.
Where are we? This is definitely not Ireland. But look at all these grapes!
It seems as if we're the first of our people to set forth here.
What should we call it then?
We shall call it Vinland for all of these wild grapes.
Let's do some exploring. Sounds like a plan.
The men explored the area. Erikson is credited with being the first European to discover North America. Many think he landed in modern-day Nova Scotia. Erikson never colonized the area. He did, however, continue to spread the religion of Christianity throughout his travels.
Act 2, An Age of Exploration. The year now is 1492. A European man named Christopher Columbus is interested in trying to find a quicker route to the eastern part of the world where he hopes to find riches. But first he needs to convince a leader to give him money for his journey.
Your Majesty, I'm convinced I can find a quicker trade route to Asia. This will set your nation apart from all of the others and become even richer than you are now.
As a matter of fact, we've recently defeated some of our enemies, so I think it's time to turn our attention on other areas like exploring.
Fantastic. The more ships you can provide, the more gold and silver I will be able to bring back.
Let's start with 3 ships.
Deal. We shall call them the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. I will not let you down.
Columbus made his now famous voyage, landing in the islands of Caribbean, North and South America, but he still thought he had reached far east. He made several journeys back to the New World, each time he was Asia. But things took a turn for the worse of Columbus, who was a poor manager of the settlements he started.
I can't believe you would do such a thing, enslave the natives and lose the support of the men in our settlement. It is bombarded.
It was necessary to colonize the area, Your Majesty.
Enough. My wife, Queen Isabella, is abducted. I will let you have your change, but you will no longer have important titles in our country.
Meanwhile, around the same time frame, another explorer was leading explorations in North and South America, and unlike Columbus, he believed he was discovering a new world.
Mr. Vespucci, I know it's not your intention to lead this expedition, but since it's your 3rd journey, we need you to take control of this ship.
Only if you insist. I must admit, I do have a good feeling about this trip.
What was it like when you found this place before?
It was incredible. I hope this journey will prove without a doubt that we have discovered a new world that I will remember forever.
So how do we do that?
I will sail along the coast and see what we find. Once we know it isn't just an island, we can be certain that this is a new continent.
Vespucci's 3rd journey was very successful. In a letter following his 3rd trip, he wrote that he had discovered a new world. A few years later, when mapmakers were creating a map of Brazil, they named the continent America, a variation of America.
Hydro discovery was officially underway, and now it was a race between the European countries to see who could profit the most off of colonizing North and South America. In 1519, a Spanish man named Hernan Cortez landed on the coast of Mexico, and he was willing to use violence to get what he wanted.
Let me go. I'm a king. This Timothy I've done is behind the gifts I've given you.
It's only terrible because you've lost. You brought me to your city of Tecnolia, the beautiful capital of your Aztec empire, as a trick. I know you're going to ambush me, but now I have you, their king, as my hostage.
You will never win. My men will never give up, and outsiders can never take upon the land we live on.
Ha ha ha. You think it's just outsiders? How naive. I've made friendships with some of the native people who you've been ruling over, and they're on my side. The city will be mine within days, and the people of Spain will remember my name forever.
I asked those first by surrender.
Although he had to return to put down a rebellion, Cortez eventually conquered the Aztecs, becoming the first Spanish conquistador. Montezuma's people turned on him once they realized he surrendered, and he was killed by either the Spanishmen or his own people. A few years later, in the early 1530s, trouble was brewing with another conquistador in the Inca Empire.
Can I go over the plan one more time? How many times do I have to tell you? Forgive me. I just don't understand how the 180 of us can defeat an army of 30,000. Plus, according to our estimate, their empire is over 10 million people. How can we possibly win?
You have no faith. You forget that they don't have any horses, guns, or cannons. Once they see our weapons in action, they will be very scared. First, we will invite the leader out of the head and enemy.
Okay, actually, I still don't see where this is going. So it's after that.
We will give him the choice to convert to Christianity, which he will let him turn down. Then we will tell him if he gives us all of his riches, we will let him go.
But we're not going to let him go, are we?
Why, of course not. Once we have his gold and silver, we will destroy his city until they surrender, and then we will put Adelahupe on trial for going against us.
Pizarro's evil plan worked. Adelahupe was executed, and the Incan Empire was overthrown by the Spanish explorers. But Pizarro himself was killed about 10 years later because of a rivalry with another explorer.
Act 4, the French and the Dutch. By the mid-1500s, several countries were exploring North and South America and starting to form settlements. The countries were also having conflicts with Native Americans. In 1535, Frenchman Jacques Cartier was leading his second expedition to the New World.
I'm going to need your help on this journey.
Why should I help you? You just kidnapped me and my friends and took us to your king.
You should consider it an honor. It shows how valuable you are to us, and you should be grateful to be service to our king.
I don't understand how you and your people can own land.
Regardless, I know you and your fellow Iroquois are interested in the river that travels west.
It is true. The river travels so far. Who knows what we may find?
So you will agree to be our guide.
I suppose. Not that I have much of a choice.
Excellent. Hopefully this river will go through the entire continent and give us a quicker trade route to Asia.
Cartier and his men explored the modern-day St. Lawrence River all the way to Montreal, but the river did not go through all the way to the Pacific Ocean. He also named Canada after misusing a Native American term. Meanwhile, the Netherlands was also sending men to explore the modern-day New York area.
Are you sure there won't be any more Indian attacks?
I can't say for certain. We got along great at first while trading. It's a shame when relationships have gotten so bad.
The crew is nervous because the archer killed John. John called me. John was a good man. It's true, John was a good man, but we must keep on searching. The Dutch East India Company trusts us to find the most trade route through the North America to Asia. Is it true that it's a myth? Nonsense, and I want to hear that out again. We must keep on going, searching.
Hudson never found the Northwest Passage. He did, however, explore the Hudson River and the Hudson Bay in modern-day New York, both of which are named after him. Hudson was killed when his men overthrew him on his fourth expedition.
Act 5. England makes its claim. The European nation of Abraham had some largest role in colonies of America was England. One explorer that worked with the English government was Francis Drake. The year is 1577.
You summoned me, my queen?
Yes, Mr. Drake, your skills at sea are very impressive, or so I've been told, and I have a job I would like you to undertake.
I'm listening.
Even though the only historian note that we have done was John Cabot in the 1490s, I think it is time for us to join the other countries in exploring the New World. I want you to start sailing from Spanish ships and in the New World.
I like the sound of that. But what do I get out of this?
You'll get your share of the riches, and if it goes well, I may even make you a knight. And of course, this should stay between us. I didn't think that would matter to you, considering your troublesome past as a slave trader.
I understand, Your Majesty.
Good, because we are not ready for a full-scale war against the Spanish.
Francis Drake had success during Spanish ships and ports for the English crown. He also became the second man to sail around the world and eventually helped defeat the Spanish Armada. Another Englishman, Walter Raleigh, also had success as a leader of English exploration.
I've explored the area and it proved for us to colonize. And if we establish a good colony, we will truly gain land and resources.
What shall we call it?
We shall call it Virginia and the colony Roanoke.
Sound like a plan. I will show you soon. I will be back this fight with you.
I would love to go, but with the war of Spain going on, the thing will not allow me to leave the site.
We love to have you, but we know the queen has a higher opinion of you. We will make you proud.
The colonies established when the leader of the colony returned back after supplying to England, the colonies completely destroyed. The fate of this colony of Roanoke is still a mystery. However, it did help set up Great Britain become a colonial power in North America.
Once America was discovered, colonies were started by European nations. This was not easy. There were many struggles and losses. The first successful colony began in 1607. Our second play is titled Jamestown Settlement.
Act 1, a new opportunity.
In the year 1606, a Virginia Company of London was given a charter by King James I of England with a hope to establish a new colony in North America. It was hoped that the colony would be an opportunity to supply the country of England with goods and riches from the New World.
Good day, Your Majesty. Our company would like permission to send a group of men
How would this benefit our country, and who exactly would be chosen to participate in the Sunny Whiskey expedition?
We would take a mix of wealthy men as servants who would be willing to work off their passage in new land cost, with 7 years of industry work. We would have necessary means of wages and meal. We could bring back to you.
Before I grant permission for the charter, I want it to be assured that all the rules and laws in this new colony will have to be obeyed.
Absolutely. Our country's best interest will always be the force that rule.
Very well, then I can see a great opportunity here. I'll grant your company a charter. Good luck to you.
Act 2, The Arrival.
After receiving permission to travel to North America, a trip was quickly organized. 144 men were chosen to make the dangerous voyage on 3 ships. After 4 long months at sea, the group was excited when land was finally spotted. They landed off the coast of present-day Virginia. The first order of the business was to build a fort for the crew.
This looks like a great spot to begin building. It's close to the waterfly area.
I suggest that we build a strong triangular wall around our new home for protection. We don't want to be attacked by natives.
I agree. I think we should name it Jamestown after our great king back home. He's the one that made this venture possible.
I didn't realize that building a colony would be so much work. Why aren't the servants doing more? I am a wealthy man. I just want to get to exploring and find some gold.
Here, I feel the same. We can leave it in the nurture, let someone else do the ground. Act 3, A Difficult Beginning. Jamestown was actually around the start between the lack of work ethic and many of the wealthy colonists. A poor choice for building a lowland filled with mosquitoes and disease, and the constant threat of the local poverty and danger. The new colony was in danger of failing. Fortunately, the chosen leader of the colony, John Smith, decided some slight changes needed to be made in order to turn around the dire situation.
As leader of our new home, I feel that we need to address some issues that have come to my attention.
Is this going to take long? We want to head out to look for gold while there's good weather.
That's what I'm talking about. Our priority has to be making our home strong and secure in the daylight by planting and hunting crops to make our food source strong and secure.
That's what our servants were, and the Indians have been helping us.
This is England.
We seem to be in fine shape today.
This isn't England. We can't just rely on others to make sure our needs are taken care of. What if the Indians move or just decide to stop helping us? We have to be self-sufficient.
I am making a new rule. He who does not work shall not eat.
Just as John John Smith had expected, the local Indian tribe grew frustrated with the colonists expecting food but giving nothing back in return. So as a result, they captured John Smith one day to send him a message. It appeared that the leader of Jamestown was about to face a dismal death when the daughter of the tribe decided to ambush him.
Your Englishmen have taken from us without any offering. This is wrong. As their leader, you must pay for that.
I agree that my man was acting the best way. Please know we want to share our land with you peacefully.
This land cannot support people that don't treat it with respect. We can't respect you either.
Please, I give you my word that things will be better from now on. Please give me a chance.
Father, please spare this man and his people. They just don't know yet how to live here. We should help them.
My daughter, you have always had a kind spot for rude creatures. If it means that much to you, I'll spare this man and return him to his people.
Thank you, Father. I'll take you back to your village.
Thank you both for your mercy.
Act 5, Hard Winter.
By the time John Smith returned to Jamestown, many more colonists had died, and those who were left wanted to leave. Luckily, a supply ship arrived, and John Smith took command again with a fresh supply of food and tools, along with some women that made the voyage. This time, the colony had hope in it. Just when he had the colony beginning to turn around, John Smith got sick and had to return to England in order to be treated. He left the colony in October, just when a cold, long winter was setting in, and it was beginning to look hopeless.
I'm not sure bringing women to this place was a good idea. We can't barely get out between storms to hunt, or our food is running low already.
I know my cabin is leaking and everything's wet all the time. I'm afraid we are going to get sick like Captain Smith did.
Will we even make it until spring?
Act 6, A Turning Point. Despite the miserable conditions, many colonists made it through the winter. That spring, a ship from England, Garnet and Abby and John Ross, was now wide away and up saving the colony.
Thank goodness there was a ship coming from England. We are so desperate for supplies. We are always telling seaweeds on the bottom of the boat. Those are tobacco plants. We think that we are washed on floors this summer. After research and the conditions, this colony had a deal for this plant. People back in the field, they pay top dollar for the tobacco. We'll go as much as we can. Do you really think anybody will buy this crop? I'm positive we'll be able to sell to England. Before you know it, we'll be seeing shiploads of this wonderful crop back home. True to his word, John Roll's tobacco crop proved to be a huge success. In fact, they needed more servants to come and help with all the growing. This in turn helped the colony continue to grow. John Rolfe ended up making peace with the Powhatan Indians and even married the tribe's daughter, Pocahontas. Jamestown continued to prosper as the first permanent settlement of the New World, Virginia. Later became one of the 13 colonies of the United States.
The colonies began to thrive and soon became impatient with the control of England. The frustration eventually led to war. Our third play is entitled American Revolution. Act 1, The Boston Tea Party.
Our story begins in Boston, Massachusetts in 1773. The British colonists in the 13 colonies had become irate at the actions of King George III.
We began in a crowded upstairs room above a tavern at midday.
Sons of Liberty, when will enough finally be enough? First the Stand Back and the Boston Massacre, and now we have Antietam.
I agree. This nonsense must stop. Our slogan is no taxation without representation, and we must not relent. It is upon us to stop the tyranny.
Here, here.
We must take matters into our own hands.
That same night, hours after the sun had set, the same men from the meeting gathered in an alley. They were dressed as Native Americans with revenge in their hearts.
Brothers, it is time. We must aboard the ship and dump out all the tea. I would rather have no tea than pay excessive taxes on it.
Follow me, let's go.
The men approached the ship.
How can I help you?
This is your final chance. Go against the king and give us tea at a fair price, and we shall spare your goods.
I'm sorry, sir. You'll know what they'll do to me if I disobey.
In that case, we must dump it. Be sure to open every crate before dumping it so that all the tea is damaged.
Let's do it. No taxation without representation.
A crowd began to gather as the colonists dumped all the British tea into the harbor. This further angered King George III, who shortly thereafter created coercive acts. These acts closed down the Boston harbor and also included quartering acts, which allowed British soldiers to force colonists to house them. Tensions continued to rise.
Act 2, Lexington and Concord.
The conflict between the colonists and the British government continued to worsen. The only way the problem could be resolved was to war. In April of 1775, fighting finally broke out.
Listen, my friend, the British are planning on going to Lexington to seize our friends, Samuel Adams and John Hancock. They will then head to Concord to destroy our weapon supply. Light one lantern in the church bell tower if they're coming by land and troops by sea.
Sounds like a plan. General Thomas Gage will be shocked when the militias are waiting on him. I'll be ready. Revere waited impatiently for his friend's signal, pacing back and forth next to his horse. There it is, the British man of war. I must alert Paul. I shall climb the tower and light 2 lanterns.
There it is. The second lantern has been lit. The British are coming by sea. I must alert the Minutemen of Lexington and Concord.
You probably already know what happened next. Revere made his famous ride and alerted the citizens of Concord to arm themselves, shouting, "The British are coming!" During his legendary journey, the men of Lexington were asleep, but always ready to go at a moment's notice.
Did you hear that?
Hear what? Let me go back.
The beat of hoofs and a man shouting. He said the British were coming. They probably don't realize we've already hidden the weapons, but maybe this is our chance to stand our ground. Are you a true patriot or not?
I'll do anything for freedom. Hurry, grab my musket. We must get the rest of the men ready.
The militia of Lexington stood up to the British soldiers. Although it is unclear which side fired the first bullet, a small battle broke out, and the British headed onward to Concord. There, they were met by an even greater force of Minutemen, and the British were forced to retreat to Boston. The American Revolution had begun.
Act 3, the Second Continental Congress. The American Revolution had officially begun, and in May of 1776, leaders of the Revolution met in sweltering heat in Philadelphia to organize the colonists' efforts against the British.
I think George Washington will surely be a great leader of our forces. As president of this operation, I seek a motion to nominate George Washington as our general.
George Washington would be a good choice. He is excellent at motivating the troops and has experience from the French and Indian War. Let's call it a vote.
The men of Congress agreed Washington would be their general.
We have also discussed the need to explain to the world why we are rebelling against this tyranny. Since the olive branch meditation was utterly ignored by our former king, we must draft a document to declare our independence from Great Britain.
Washington to save a life. I think John Adams is the man who dropped.
John would be a good choice, but I think we should have a committee of 5 to discuss and create it. Thomas Jefferson, myself, John Adams, Robert Sherman, and Roger Livingston. I believe Thomas should be the primary author. His work is incredible.
Your kind words honor me, Miss Strickland. I accept the task.
The Committee of Five met for about a month and drafted the Declaration of Independence, a document that will forever have a place in history.
We present to you, men of Congress, our Declaration of Independence.
It is brilliant. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and that they have certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let me be the first to sign.
The members of Congress signed their names to the document, etching their names in history. Lost in the excitement was the irony of the phrase, all men are created equal, and the fact that several of the men owned slaves, including the man who penned the words. Slavery would eventually drive our nation apart. However, that's a story for another time. Act 4, Crossing the Delaware.
The Revolutionary War began, but many colonists were skeptical about their ability to actually win the war. General Washington was stationed with his men on the south bank of the Delaware River on December 24, 1776.
General Washington, our men are tired. We do not have clothes that are suited for this freezing weather, and we are hungry.
You're not telling me anything I do not already know.
There's more. We're worried about a couple of relatives deserters who haven't given away our plan.
You know that those reports are true. We'll attack the Hessians tonight anyway, on Christmas Eve. The Hessians' arrogance will prove to be the downfall. I'm more worried about the Mormon men. How long can we maintain positive spirits?
The Hessians were German soldiers who the British paid to fight for them. They were located about 9 miles away in Trenton, New Jersey. As they crossed the Delaware, Washington's forces faced brutal conditions. It was windy, freezing, cold. Meanwhile, the unsuspecting Hessians were stationed in Trenton.
Did you hear that? It was probably nothing.
That's why our boss told us this was a possibility.
I didn't think the general would have the nerve. They should know they don't have a chance. We fight wars for a living.
Yes, but perhaps we shouldn't have stayed up so late celebrating last night. We have to get closer.
It sounds like there are many of them. Alert the troops.
General Washington and his 2,400 men braved the fried temperatures and attacked the unsuspecting Hessians. The Hessians were surprised and surrendered, many of them captured. Only a few of Washington's men were killed. As word traveled across the 13 colonies about the victory, many colonists began to believe they could win the war. Winning the battle gave Washington's troops better morale as well.
Act 5, Drafting a Treaty.
The year is 1782. American delegation has entered talks with Great Britain to discuss an end to the Revolutionary War. John Jay, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams represented the American colonizers, while Richard Oswald was the peace commissioner for the British.
Peace Commissioner Oswald, critical to us for your recognition of the assassination. Because he all land east of the Mississippi after the surrender at Yorktown. We have become significant odds in the affair.
All the way to Mississippi. Surely you aren't serious. You know just as well as I do that your victory was because of the French allies. Without them, your defeat would have been certain.
Perhaps, but all the same, you know you cannot hold our country. This war has been expensive.
To that much I can agree. We will officially recognize your independence. I am surprised you are not negotiating with the French since you are such great allies.
The French. I wouldn't trust them with my life. So pretentious. What are you looking for from these negotiations anyway?
We do not want those who remain loyal to the crown throughout the war to be punished for it.
They are considered cowards by their new countrymen.
And yet they should be given back their property, and they should also avoid persecution. Debts and credits for the war should also be honored.
We are reasonable men. We can agree to those terms as long as you allow our fishermen rights to conduct business off the coast of Canada.
It's a deal. Then peace should ease the burden of both of our nations.
May we have accomplished our goals. Now back to the states.
The colonists achieved their independence and the Treaty of Paris was ratified in 1783. There was still work to do once our leaders arrived back in the States. There's a weak government in control that will need to be replaced. And if you thought our issues with the British were over, you're quite wrong. But the rest of the story will be told at a later time.
The new nation had much to figure out. There were disputes and disagreements and eventually compromises. Our last play is titled A New Nation.
Act 1, Creating Constitution.
The American colonies finally achieved independence from Great Britain. The Articles of Confederation was planned for government for a new nation. However, there were issues with the government. Leaders of the young country met in Philadelphia in the summer of 1787 to change the Articles.
Hang on, we're at costuming. You guys are a great audience. We appreciate your patience.
I call this meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to fix our broken government. Our central government is so weak without the ability to tax and regulate trade. Where shall I begin?
With the election of lawmakers, of course, bigger states like my home state of Virginia should have more representation in Congress. This is obvious.
What's so obvious about this idea? Should we just ignore smaller states like my home state of New Jersey? Might as well go back to having a king.
So what's your idea?
Each state should have an equal number of lawmakers. It's only fair.
The two sides really argued their side.
Gentlemen, enough of this. It is clear that neither side has enough support to include in our Constitution.
Actually, sir, I've been working on a compromise.
Go on then, let's hear it.
What if we have two houses of Congress?
Interesting. Explain more.
One house, the House of Representatives, would have a proportional amount of representatives from each state. The larger the state, the more representatives, taking into Virginia plan into account.
Yes. What about us?
I'm getting there. And the second house, the Senate, would have two people from each state, no matter the size. This would be taking the New Jersey plan into account.
Yeah, that seems like it'll work.
Excellent. Let's call the Connecticut plan to a vote.
The vote passed and the great compromise was completed. Lawmakers at the convention eventually realized that the Articles of Confederation was such an ugly failure that they put together an entirely new constitution. There was huge debates over how much power the federal government should have when 1789 the document was passed.
Act 2, Ending a Rebellion.
The Constitution was put into effect and George Washington was elected as the first president. The federal government was now stronger than before, but the young country was still having financial issues.
We're on debt as a country, Mr. Hamilton. What will we do?
Sir, I think more taxes just might be the answer.
That's a dangerous idea. After all, taxes in part led to the American Revolution. But what would we tax?
Sir, I think whiskey will be a great tax. We might make a lot of money from it.
Interesting. I suppose we should try it.
It wasn't long before the tax on whiskey was put into effect, but many citizens weren't happy about it. Trouble was brewing with a group of small farmers in western Pennsylvania.
Can you believe this? The government is going to start taxing on whiskey, of all things.
And worst of all, it's hurting the small farmers. The worst, the big producer, the more whiskey on tax break. It's so unfair.
What if we just didn't pay the taxes?
That's an idea. Do you think we can get away with it?
Under the old Articles of Confederation, definitely, but now we have the Constitution, which people say is stronger. But I say we test out how strong it really is. The next time the tax collector shows up, he'll be in for quite a surprise.
Farmers organized forces and attacked several government officials. They refused to pay the tax, forcing George Washington into action.
Sir, the rebels are not paying their taxes, and peace talking has not made any changes.
We must use a show of force then. I will assemble over 10,000 troops and lead them into western Pennsylvania myself. After all, the Constitution makes me the commander-in-chief of the military.
Washington led the troops into western Pennsylvania, and the rebel farmers stood down. There was never a battle, but Washington's actions proved the strength of the new Constitution and that the United States government was there to stay.
Act 3, the Alien Sedition Acts.
In his farewell address to the country, George Washington warned against political parties. Despite this warning, two groups were emerging in America: the Federalists, who supported a strong central government, and the Democratic Republicans, who supported states' rights. John Adams, a Federalist, became president in 1796. And meanwhile, the French and British were at war, and America was trying to stagnate.
How did the meeting with the French go, Mr. Pickney?
Terribly, sir.
And why is that?
They were upset about the Jay Treaty, our peace agreement with Great Britain.
I guess that makes sense. The French and the British are fierce enemies.
They considered it a breach of alliance we formed with them during the American Revolution.
So then what happened then what ended up happening in the meeting?
Well, first they made us wait weeks before they would see us. Then they sent 3 agents, they called them X, Y, and Z, and they demanded $250,000 and a huge amount for us to even see their Parisian minister.
That is outrageous. We have stayed neutral in this war as long as possible. However, I'm afraid we must begin to prepare for war against our old friend.
And how will you prepare, Mr. President?
We must crack down on immigrants. You never know who could be a spy for the British. No, for France. And we must limit the press. We need a country that is united.
Federalists in Congress passed the Alien and Sedition Acts in response to the XYZ affair. The laws were signed by President Adams, but many Democratic Republicans weren't happy about the controversial laws, including important leaders Thomas Jefferson and James Madison.
Can you believe this? These laws make it easier to send away immigrants, and it makes it harder for them to vote.
Plus, it makes it so that newspapers can't criticize the president.
Exactly. It's completely ridiculous. What happened to the freedom of speech?
I'm afraid you were right about the central government becoming too strong. Kentucky and Virginia are already discussing not following the laws. What should we do?
We should rally the party to oppose the Federalists. I'm thinking about running for president myself.
Thomas Jefferson ended up becoming the 3rd president of the United States in 1800, and the unpopular Alien and Sedition Acts were ended.
4, Purchasing the Territory.
Year 1803, France issued the Louisiana Territory, a huge piece of land west of the Mississippi River. Now the President, Thomas Jefferson, sent ambassadors including future President James Monroe to France to discuss buying New Orleans, an important city in the territory.
How'd the trip go, Mr. Monroe?
Better than expected, Mr. President.
Good, so have we gained New Orleans then?
More than that, we've gained the entire Louisiana Territory.
Napoleon Bonaparte was willing to part with that much land? It must have cost us a fortune.
Actually, it cost us $15 million. It may sound like a lot of money, but when you consider the fact that we bought over 800,000 square miles of land, it's actually pretty cheap.
It's well worth the money. It nearly doubled the size of our young country. You and Robert Livingston did an excellent job on this deal. This may be my lasting legacy.
Moreover, the U.S. gained a vast unknown. Thomas Jefferson called upon Meriwether Lewis to lead an expedition into the territory to discover more about the land.
The President himself was called upon me to lead a force of men into the land to find out what awaits our country.
That's great news. I'm happy that you get the chance to do this.
That's why I wanted to meet with you. I'd like you to join me and be a co-commander of the force with me.
You know, this wouldn't be an easy task. Diseases, possible starvation, freezing weather, the wilderness, all of this could make this a dangerous trip.
That's why I need you to join me. I trust you.
All right, then count me in.
Perfect. We need to be joining men immediately. Our goal is to reach the Pacific Ocean.
Lewis and Clark embarked on a now legendary journey. They eventually reached the Pacific Ocean and report their findings to Thomas Jefferson. After they returned, they inspired others to explore the western frontier. Along the way, they were helped by some Native Americans, including Sacagawea, a Native American woman who helped them communicate with tribes.
Act 5, A Trade Embargo. Issues between Great Britain and France continued during Thomas Jefferson's presidency. Great Britain began seizing U.S. ships and kidnapping American sailors too.
What should we do with Great Britain and France? They're making it impossible for us to stay neutral in this war they're having.
There is no easy solution. Neither side's allowing us to trade with the other side. They think trading means we're supporting their enemy.
It's a difficult situation, but we are such a young country, I don't think we could survive another large war.
So what should we do?
What if we stayed out of it completely and didn't trade with anybody at all?
That's an interesting idea. It would definitely make America reliant. On the nations less.
Let's have Congress draft the document and I will sign it. The British can't sink our ships if there aren't any on the seas.
The Embargo Act of 1807 was signed into law, making it illegal for Americans to trade with any other foreign countries. However, the law created an unexpected problem.
I can't believe how much this Embargo Act has hurt our businesses.
Our entire region of New England has been hurt by this law.
I remember back when Jefferson was worried about the government being too powerful. Now he's telling us who we are allowed to trade with.
I have heard that this law hasn't even hurt the British like it was supposed to.
I have heard the same. They have an excellent planting season and are trading with other countries instead.
I have also heard other rumors.
Has a lie.
Will you ever look into smuggling?
Normally, no. But the situation is so dire, I would be interested.
Meet me at the dock at midnight then.
The Embargo Act was largely a disaster. It hurt the U.S. economy, including farmers and merchants in New England. Some turned to illegal smuggling to make money. It also didn't hurt the British or French like it was supposed to. Eventually, the U.S. didn't stay out of conflict with the British. The War of 1812 was next up to follow, but added another story.
This concludes our plays on the history of our great nation. A special thank you to the NKI PTO for helping purchase many of the costumes. A very, very special thank you to the talented Mr. Steve Muir for the amazing backdrop. We hope you have enjoyed our production.